My parents left me in a field on my sister's birthday, so I wouldn't ruin it with my issues. When I asked them why, they said, "You ruin everything. You should be grateful we didn't leave you there." I didn't say a word. Yesterday, my mom called 17 times, then sent a letter saying I destroyed the family. My parents loved me for my entire life, until I turned 8 years old, because that's when I got diagnosed with high-functioning autism. You see, my parents saw that as a sign of them being too easy on me, that they had to amp up their punishments. And for years, my older sister Linda would defend me. When my parents would serve me 20% of what I should be eating, she would sneak me food in the middle of the night when everyone was asleep. Or when my parents randomly wailed on me to try beat out the autism, she'd hold me while I cried. Most days, she was the only reason why I didn't commit suicide. But when I turned 15 and she was 16, she turned her back on me. When I went into her room at 2 a.m. to talk, she'd threaten to get our dad to kick me out if I didn't leave. Or another time, I was really overstimulated and started rubbing my thumb with my cheek. Usually, Linda would sit with me and take my hand, but suddenly she ran to tell our parents that I was doing it again, knowing full well they'd punish me. After that, I started walking through life as a heartless zombie. I spent pretty much every day disassociated, and whenever I snapped back to reality, I forced myself to zone out again, because I just wanted to get through school so I could finally move out, especially since Linda wasn't going anywhere anytime soon. Luckily, my parents did do one thing for me. They paid for my college fees. In fact, they insisted on it, probably because they wanted to get rid of me. But I didn't care, because after all, a win is a win. Fast forward to me spending my first night in the dorm. That's when I got the text. It was Linda. "Don't reply to this. Please pick me up and drive me to your dorm at 4 p.m. on Saturday. Don't tell our parents. I'm sorry. I love you." My hand trembled as I stared at the text. Now she wanted to hang out? Now she wanted to be my sister again? That night, I couldn't sleep. All the memories were replaying in my head like a broken record. But even as I thought about all the times Linda laughed at me getting wailed on, or urging my parents to force the autism out of me faster, I felt something. It was gratitude. Because after all, Linda was the one who tried to make sure I at least had some sort of childhood. I figured I owed her. So that Sunday, I drove her. "Go faster," was the first thing she said when she got in. She then proceeded to duck down and lie on the floor of the back seat, and refused to talk to me until we were in the dorm. Finally, she broke down. I comforted her through her anxiety attack, just as she did for me all those years ago. And after half an hour, she finally spoke. "I never meant to hurt you, Maria. I swear I thought she was pranking me." But then she told me something so shocking I felt like throwing up. "Do you remember my 16th birthday?" she asked, voice shaking. I nodded. My dad had driven me to a field miles away and left me there until the day was over, so I wouldn't ruin the day with my autism. "Well," she said, "that's when Dad..." Tears started welling up in her eyes. My stomach dropped. "He took my first time from me." She didn't need to finish. I immediately grabbed her head and started rubbing her back. Our dad had taken her innocence. "I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry," she repeated over and over. "He told me speaking to you would make me uglier because your autism would rub off on me. So if he ever caught me, then he'd do it to you too." Suddenly it all made sense. I was immediately hit with a gnawing feeling of guilt for ever hating my sister. And apparently, our mom knew. She just didn't care. I asked if they knew where she was, and she shook her head. This was good because my dorm was far from my campus, and they had no idea where I lived. I reassured her that I loved her, and that I would keep her safe. She didn't know it, but I was going to make our parents pay. For everything. The next morning, I woke up to Linda shaking me. She had this wild look in her eyes. "Maria, I just got a text from Zach. Mom and Dad are telling everyone I'm mentally ill and made everything up." I grabbed my phone and checked my messages. Sure enough, Zach had texted me too. "Hey, your parents are saying Linda has some kind of breakdown. They're trying to get family to help find her. What's going on?" My stomach dropped. Of course they wouldn't just accept defeat. They were monsters, but they weren't stupid. They knew exactly how to play the concerned parent card. "What do we do?" Linda asked, pacing around the small dorm room. "What if people believe them?" I thought for a minute. "We have evidence, remember? They can say whatever they want, but we have proof." But Linda wasn't convinced. She kept pacing, chewing on her thumbnail like she used to do when we were kids, and Dad was in one of his moods. "They're going to find me," she whispered. "They'll track my phone or something." I grabbed her shoulders. "Number, they're not. I promised I'd keep you safe, and I will." I didn't tell her about the worries I had. No point adding to her stress. Instead, I texted Zach back. "Don't believe everything you hear. Linda's safe. That's all I can say right now." Then I blocked his number. We couldn't risk any family members, even well-meaning ones, knowing where we were. That day, Linda and I skipped our usual trip to the dining hall. Too risky. Instead, I walked to the convenience store near campus and bought some sandwiches and snacks. When I got back, Linda had pushed my desk in front of the door. "Just in case," she said. We spent the day jumping at every noise in the hallway. Every time footsteps approached our door, Linda would freeze like a deer in headlights. But it was always just other students going about their day. By evening, we were both exhausted from the constant state of alert. I suggested we watch something on my laptop to distract ourselves. We ended up binging some stupid comedy show, and for a few hours, things almost felt normal. Linda even laughed a couple times. Around midnight, my phone buzzed with an email notification. It was from the burner account I'd set up. Someone had replied to one of our anonymous messages. I opened it, expecting the worst. Instead, it was from Dad's company. They wanted more information about the allegations. They were conducting an internal investigation and needed a statement from the victim. I showed it to Linda. "What do you think? Should we respond?" She stared at the screen for a long time. "If I tell them everything, it becomes real. Like, officially real." "It is real," I said gently. "It happened, and he deserves consequences." Linda nodded slowly. "I'll do it, but I need a day to write it all down, to figure out what to say." The next day, Linda spent hours typing on my laptop. I sat nearby, working on assignments I'd fallen behind on. Occasionally, she'd ask me if I remembered certain details, dates, specific incidents. I helped as much as I could, but some of the worst stuff had happened when I wasn't around. While she worked, I checked our parents' social media. Mom had posted a tearful plea for anyone who has seen our daughter Linda to to contact them immediately. She claimed Linda was not well and needs medical attention. The post had dozens of sympathetic comments, people offering prayers, sharing the post to spread the word. It made me sick. The same woman who watched her husband abuse her daughters for years was now playing the devastated mother, and people were buying it. I didn't show Linda this either. She was already struggling enough with writing her statement. That night, Linda finished her account. She asked me to read it before she sent it. It was detailed, specific, and absolutely heartbreaking. She described not just the sexual assault on her birthday, but years of inappropriate touching, comments, and behavior from Dad. Things she'd never even told me about. Is it too much? She asked nervously. Should I take some stuff out? I hugged her tight. It's your story. Tell as much or as little as you want. She decided to send it all. We attached it to a reply email, along with some of our evidence, and sent it to the HR department. Then Linda closed the laptop and curled up on my bed, emotionally drained. The next morning, we got a response. The company thanked us for the information and assured us it would be handled with the utmost seriousness and confidentiality. They also mentioned they had a legal obligation to report certain types of abuse to authorities. Linda panicked when she read that last part. They're going to call the police. I didn't want that. Hey, calm down, I said, trying to sound more confident than I felt. They probably just have to say that for liability reasons, and even if they do report it, the police would need to find us first. This seemed to calm her a little, but she was still on edge. We decided to be extra careful. No more trips to the dining hall or convenience store. I'd asked my friend Allie to bring us food instead. Allie had been texting me all week, wondering where I was. I hadn't told her anything specific, just that I was dealing with family stuff. When I finally called and asked if she could bring us some groceries, she immediately agreed. Are you in some kind of trouble? She asked when she dropped off the food. She glanced curiously at Linda, who was hiding in the bathroom. It's complicated, I said. I'll explain everything later, I promise. Just don't tell anyone I'm here, okay? Or that my sister is with me. Allie looked concerned, but nodded. Whatever you need, just let me know if I can help. After she left, Linda came out of the bathroom. Can we trust her? I nodded. Allie's solid. She won't say anything. That weekend, we got another email from Dad's company. They had terminated his employment, effective immediately. They couldn't share details of their investigation due to privacy policies, but they thanked us for coming forward. Linda and I high-fived when we read it. It felt like the first real win. But our celebration was short-lived. That same day, I got a voicemail from a number I didn't recognize. When I played it, I nearly dropped my phone. It was Dad. Maria, I know you have Linda with you. This little game you two are playing has gone far enough. I've lost my job because of your lies. Your mother is devastated. If you don't bring Linda home by Monday, we're going to the police to report her as a missing person. Think about what you're doing. His voice was calm, reasonable, the same tone he used when talking to neighbors or teachers, the voice that had fooled everyone for years. But there was something else that terrified me. He sounded certain about our location, not like he was guessing or trying to trick us into confirming where we were. I deleted the message without letting Linda hear it, but I was shaken. Going to the police was exactly what we didn't want. If they filed a missing persons report, the police might actually look for Linda. And if they found her, they might make her go back home since she was still a minor. We needed a better plan, something more permanent. That night, after Linda fell asleep, I called the campus legal aid office. I pretended to be asking for a friend whose younger sister was being abused at home. The law student who answered explained that in our state, a minor could petition for emancipation under certain circumstances. Abuse was definitely one of them. When I told Linda about emancipation the next morning, she seemed interested but scared. Would I have to go to court? Would I have to see them? Maybe, I admitted. But you'd have a lawyer, and all our evidence. She thought about it all day. Finally, that evening, she made a decision. I want to do it. I want to be legally free from them, but I'm scared to do it alone. You're not alone, I reminded her. I'm right here. The next day, we went to the legal aid office together. It was the first time Linda had left the dorm in over a week. She wore a hoodie pulled low over her face and kept looking around nervously as we walked across campus. The law student we met with, Kevin, was patient and kind. He explained the whole emancipation process to Linda. She would need to prove she could support herself financially, had a place to live, and that emancipation was in her best interest due to the abuse. The financial part is tricky, Kevin admitted. Do you have a job or savings? Linda shook her head. She'd never been allowed to work. Dad always said it would distract from her studies. What about other family members who could help? Kevin asked. Grandparents, aunts, uncles? We looked at each other. Most of our extended family had sided with our parents in the past. But now, after everything we'd revealed, maybe, I said. We have an aunt in Colorado who always seemed to suspect something wasn't right. She used to send us cards with money that our parents would hold for us. Never saw a penny of that money, Linda muttered. Kevin suggested we contact this aunt, see if she'd be willing to help. He also recommended we gather more evidence, medical records showing injuries, school reports noting behavioral changes, anything that could corroborate our claims. On our way back to the dorm, Linda seemed more hopeful than I'd seen her in days. This could actually work, she said. I could be legally free from them. I nodded, but I was distracted. I'd spotted a car that looked like Dad's in the campus parking lot. It was probably nothing. Lots of people had silver Hondas, but it put me on edge. When we got back to the dorm, there was a note taped to our door. My heart nearly stopped when I saw it, thinking it might be from our parents who had somehow tracked us down, but it was just from my RA, reminding everyone about the upcoming fire drill. Inside, Linda immediately went to my laptop and started searching for Aunt Sarah's contact information. We hadn't spoken to her in years, not since Mom had a big fight with her at Thanksgiving when I was 12. Found her, Linda exclaimed after about 20 minutes of searching. She's on Facebook. We crafted a careful message, not revealing too much, but asking if we could call her about an important family matter. Then we waited. The response came faster than we expected. Within an hour, Aunt Sarah had not only replied but given us her phone number with a message. Call anytime. I've been worried about you girls for years. Linda and I looked at each other. Had Aunt Sarah known all along? Had she tried to help and been pushed away by our parents? I dialed the number with shaking hands and put it on speaker. Hello? Aunt Sarah's voice was just as I remembered it, warm and a little husky. Aunt Sarah? It's Maria. I have Linda here with me too. Oh my god, girls. Are you okay? I've been seeing some strange posts from your mother. We took turns explaining everything. Well, not everything, but enough. The abuse, Linda's escape, our plan for emancipation. Aunt Sarah listened without interrupting, occasionally making small sounds of distress. When we finished, there was a long silence. Then Aunt Sarah spoke, her voice thick with emotion. I always suspected something wasn't right. The way you both flinched when your father raised his voice. How thin you were, Maria. The way your mother would change the subject whenever I asked too many questions. She took a deep breath. I tried to report it once, called CPS after that Thanksgiving visit, but they said without evidence there wasn't much they could do. Your parents must have convinced them everything was fine. I felt a surge of gratitude toward this woman who had tried to help us when no one else would. So will you help Linda with the emancipation? I asked. She needs financial support, at least on paper. Of course I will, Aunt Sarah said without hesitation. In fact, I want to do more than that. I want to offer Linda a place to stay. I have a spare room. She could finish high school here in Colorado, away from all of this. Linda's eyes widened. Really? You'd do that? In a heartbeat, Aunt Sarah replied. And Maria too, during breaks. You're both welcome here anytime. For the first time since this whole nightmare began, I felt like we might actually have a future, a real one, with people who actually cared about us. After the call, Linda was practically bouncing off the walls with excitement. Did that really just happen? Do I actually have a way out? I nodded, smiling at her enthusiasm. Looks like it, but we still have work to do. The emancipation process could take months. I don't care, Linda said. Just knowing there's an end in sight, it changes everything. The next day, we went back to the legal aid office. Kevin helped us start the emancipation paperwork, with Aunt Sarah joining by phone. She agreed to sign an affidavit stating she would provide housing and financial support for Linda. Things were finally looking up, until I checked my email that night. There was a message from my academic advisor. Subject line, urgent, academic probation warning. I'd missed so many classes and assignments that I was in danger of failing the semester. If I didn't get back on track immediately, I could lose my scholarship. And without that scholarship, I'd have to move back home. I stared at the email in horror. How had I forgotten about this? I'd been so focused on helping Linda that I'd completely neglected my own situation. What's wrong? Linda asked, noticing my expression. I showed her the email. If I lose my scholarship, I can't stay here. And if I can't stay here, then I can't either, Linda finished. Not until the emancipation goes through. We sat in silence, the weight of this new problem settling over us. You have to go back to class, Linda finally said. I'll be okay here by myself. No way, I shook my head. What if they find you? What if they try to take you back? They don't know which dorm you're in, Linda reminded me. And I won't answer the door for anyone but you. I still didn't like it, but she was right. I had to salvage my academic standing. So the next morning, I reluctantly went back to class. It was strange being around other students again after spending so much time holed up in the dorm. Everyone was talking about normal college stuff. Parties, assignments, relationship drama. It all seemed so trivial compared to what Linda and I were dealing with. My professors were surprisingly understanding when I explained I'd been dealing with a family emergency. Most gave me extensions on missed assignments. By the end of the day, I felt like maybe I could actually catch up. When I got back to the dorm, Linda was fine, just as she'd promised. She'd spent the day researching emancipation cases and making lists of evidence we could use. Look at this, she said, showing me her notebook. I wrote down every major incident I can remember, with dates when possible, and I found my old diaries. There's stuff in there from years ago that could help. I was impressed by her organization. This is great, Linda. Really helpful. She beamed at the praise. It struck me then how rarely she must have heard positive feedback growing up. Our parents had only ever criticized, never encouraged. The next few days fell into a routine. I'd go to classes and work on assignments, while Linda stayed in the dorm, preparing her case and communicating with Aunt Sarah and Kevin. In the evenings, we'd compare notes and plan our next steps. It was almost starting to feel normal. Almost. Then came the email from Mom. It was sent to my student email address, which I hadn't thought to check regularly. The subject line was simply, "Please read." Against my better judgment, I opened it. Maria, I don't know what lies your sister has been telling you, but your father and I are worried sick. Linda needs help. Professional help. She's always been troubled, you know that. Remember all those times she'd make up stories for attention? This is just like that, only worse. Your father is devastated by these accusations. How could you believe such terrible things about him? After everything we've done for you both? We paid for your college, Maria. We gave you everything. If you help bring Linda home, we can forget this ever happened. We won't be angry. We just want our family back together. Please, Maria, do the right thing. Mom, I read it 3 times, feeling sicker each time. The manipulation was so obvious now that I was away from them. The way she twisted everything made it sound like Linda was the problem, like we were the ones hurting them. I showed the email to Linda. Her hands shook as she read it. She's lying, Linda whispered. You know she's lying, right? Of course I know, I assured her. I was there, remember? I saw what they did to us. Linda nodded, but she looked unsettled for the rest of the day. That night, I heard her crying in her sleep. The next morning, I woke up to find Linda sitting at my desk, staring at the laptop screen. What are you doing? I asked, still groggy from sleep. Mom emailed me too, she said flatly. She says Dad is having heart problems from the stress. She says it'll be my fault if he dies. I jumped out of bed and looked at the screen. Sure enough, there was an email from Mom, even more manipulative than the one she'd sent me. Don't listen to her, I said firmly. Dad is not having heart problems. They're just trying to guilt you into coming back. Linda nodded, but she looked uncertain. What if he is sick though? What if he's not? I cut her off. And even if he was, it wouldn't be your fault. None of this is your fault, Linda. She closed the laptop and rubbed her eyes. I know that logically. It's just, there's still in my head, you know, all those years of them making me feel responsible for everything. I knew exactly what she meant. I still caught myself thinking that way sometimes, that if I'd just been better, tried harder, been less autistic somehow, maybe they wouldn't have hurt us. We need to block their emails, I decided. They're just trying to mess with our heads. Linda agreed, and we spent the morning figuring out how to filter their messages into a separate folder that we wouldn't have to see. That afternoon, I had a meeting with my academic advisor. He was concerned about my absences but seemed satisfied with my plan to catch up. As I was leaving his office, my phone buzzed with a text from Linda. Someone's knocking on the door. Not answering. I texted back immediately. Good. Don't open it. On my way. I practically ran across campus, my heart pounding. Had they found us? How? When I got to the dorm, the hallway was empty. I unlocked the door and found Linda sitting on the bed, looking pale. They knocked for like 5 minutes, she said. Then they slipped this under the door. She handed me a folded piece of paper. I opened it, expecting the worst. It was from the RA. Mandatory floor meeting tonight at 8. Attendance required. I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. It's just dorm stuff. Nothing to worry about. Linda nodded, but she still looked shaken. I thought it was them. I thought they'd found me. I sat next to her on the bed. Even if they somehow figured out which dorm I'm in, they can't get past the front desk without a student ID. You're safe here. She leaned against my shoulder. I know. I just can't stop being scared. I understood that feeling all too well. For years, I'd lived in constant fear of my parents' next punishment. That kind of fear doesn't just disappear overnight. That evening, I went to the floor meeting while Linda stayed locked in the room. It was just the usual dorm announcements, reminder about quiet hours, upcoming events, warning about a recent theft in the building. Nothing important. When I got back, Linda was on the phone with Aunt Sarah, discussing details of her potential move to Colorado. They were talking about schools in the area, activities Linda might be interested in, normal stuff. It was nice to hear Linda sounding excited about the future. After she hung up, we worked on our respective tasks, me catching up on assignments, Linda organizing her evidence. It was almost midnight when my phone buzzed with a text from a number I didn't recognize. I know where you are, both of you. This ends now. I stared at the message, my blood turning to ice. It had to be Dad. Who else would send something like that? I showed it to Linda, whose face went white. How did he get your new number? How does he know where we are? I shook my head, trying to think. He's bluffing. He has to be. There's no way he could know which dorm we're in. But even as I said it, I wasn't sure. Dad had always been resourceful when it came to controlling us. What if he'd somehow tracked Linda's phone? Or maybe he'd been watching the campus, looking for us. We need to leave, Linda said, already grabbing her backpack. Right now. Wait, I said, trying to stay calm. Let's think this through. If we panic and run, we might end up somewhere less safe. The dorm has security. They can't just walk in and take you. Linda wasn't convinced. What if they called the police? What if they report me missing and the police come looking? She had a point. If the police got involved, things would get complicated fast. Okay, I said. Let's call Kevin from legal aid. See what he advises. It was late, but this was an emergency. Thankfully, Kevin answered. I explained the situation as calmly as I could. First of all, Kevin said, don't respond to the text. If it is your father, engaging will only confirm your location. What if he really does know where we are? Linda asked. Even if he does, Kevin explained, he can't legally force Linda to go anywhere without police involvement. And if the police do get involved, that's when you show them your evidence. The abuse, the threats, everything. But I don't want to talk to the police, Linda protested. I understand, Kevin said gently. But if it comes to that, I'll be there with you. You won't have to face them alone. After we hung up, Linda seemed slightly calmer. So we stay put? I nodded. For now. But let's be prepared, just in case. We spent the next hour gathering our most important documents and evidence, making sure everything was easily accessible if we needed to leave quickly. Then we tried to get some sleep, taking turns keeping watch. Morning came without incident. No more threatening texts, no unexpected visitors. Maybe Dad had been bluffing after all. But as I was getting ready for class, my phone rang. Unknown number. I hesitated, then answered. Hello? Maria. It was Dad's voice. My stomach dropped. I'm on campus. We need to talk. I hung up immediately, hands shaking. He's here, I told Linda. On campus. Linda started hyperventilating. I grabbed her shoulders. Listen to me. He doesn't know which building we're in. There are dozens of dorms. We're still safe. She nodded, trying to control her breathing. What do we do? I thought quickly. I'll call Allie. Ask if we can stay at her apartment for a few days. Allie agreed without hesitation when I called. She lived off campus in a small apartment with her roommate Jen. It wasn't ideal, but it would be safer than staying in the dorm if Dad was really searching the campus. We packed quickly, just the essentials and our evidence. Then we waited until most students would be in class, when the hallways would be empty. I peeked out first, checking that the coast was clear. Then we made a run for it. We made it to Allie's apartment without incident. She and Jen were both in class, but Allie had left a key under the mat as promised. Once inside, we locked the door and collapsed on the couch, exhausted from the constant stress. Do you think they'll arrest him? Linda asked suddenly. I shrugged. I don't know. Maybe. We spent the day at Allie's, jumping at every sound outside. When Allie got home from class, she took one look at our faces and knew something was seriously wrong. Okay, she said, sitting down across from us. I think it's time you told me what's really going on. So we did. Not everything, but enough for her to understand why we were hiding. Allie listened without interrupting, her expression growing more horrified with each revelation. Jesus, she said when we finished. Of course you can stay here as long as you need. And if anyone comes looking for you, I've never seen you in my life. Her immediate support brought tears to my eyes. Thank you. That night we all stayed up late talking. It felt strange, but good to be open about what we'd been through. Allie and Jen were sympathetic and supportive, offering practical help and emotional reassurance. For the first time in weeks, I felt like maybe we weren't alone in this fight. Maybe there were people out there, like Aunt Sarah, like Kevin, like Allie and Jen, who would stand with us against our parents. The next morning, Kevin called with news. Your father's been arrested. The police acted on the report from his company and the evidence you provided. Linda and I stared at each other in shock. Arrested? Really? Yes, Kevin confirmed. Multiple charges, including a sexual assault of a minor. There's a bail hearing scheduled for tomorrow. What does that mean for us? Linda asked. It means there's now an official police investigation, and it means your father can't come near either of you. There's automatically a temporary restraining order in place. After we hung up, Linda burst into tears. I can't believe it's actually happening. I thought no one would ever believe us. I hugged her tight. People believe us, and Dad's going to pay for what he did. The next day, Kevin called with news about Dad's bail hearing. The judge set bail at $250,000. Your mother is trying to get the money together, but it might take some time. So he's still in jail? Linda asked, hope evident in her voice. For now, yes, Kevin confirmed. And even if he does make bail, the restraining order is still in effect. He can't come near either of you. That was somewhat reassuring, but I still didn't trust Dad to follow court orders. Neither did Linda, judging by how she still checked the locks multiple times before bed each night. A week passed. Dad remained in jail, unable to make bail. Mom had apparently been calling family members asking for loans, but not many were willing to help. The evidence against Dad was too damning. Linda's emancipation hearing was coming up in just over a week. Kevin was confident it would be granted, especially now with the criminal charges against Dad. Once that happened, Linda could legally move to Colorado with Aunt Sarah. Things were looking up. Maybe too much so, because that's when the next blow came. I was in class when my phone buzzed with a text from Linda. Mom's here, outside the dorm. She's crying and making a scene. My heart raced as I grabbed my things and ran out, ignoring my professor's confused look. I sprinted across campus, praying Linda had kept the door locked. When I got to the dorm, there was a small crowd gathered outside. In the middle stood my mother, tears streaming down her face as she wailed about her poor, sick daughter who needed to come home. Campus security was already there, trying to calm her down. I pushed through the crowd, anger burning in my chest. What are you doing here? Mom turned to me, her face transforming from distress to manipulation in an instant. Maria, thank God. You need to help me get your sister. She's not well. She needs to come home where I can take care of her. The performance was impressive, I'll give her that. Anyone watching would think she was just a concerned mother, but I knew better. Linda has a restraining order against you, I said loudly enough for everyone to hear. You're not supposed to be anywhere near her. Mom's face hardened for a split second before the tears returned. That's all a misunderstanding. Your father never hurt anyone. Linda is confused, making up stories. Stop it. I cut her off. Just stop. Everyone knows the truth now. Dad's in jail. It's over. Campus security stepped between us. Ma'am, we're going to have to ask you to leave university property, one officer said to Mom. If you have a restraining order against you, being here could result in your arrest. Mom looked around at the crowd, realizing she wasn't getting the sympathy she expected. This isn't over, she hissed at me before allowing security to escort her away. I rushed up to the dorm room where Linda was huddled on my bed, shaking. Is she gone? She asked when I came in. Yeah, security took her away. I sat next to her. Are you okay? She nodded, but I could tell she was rattled. She was screaming my name, saying I needed to come home, that I was sick and confused. Some people were filming it on their phones. Great, just what we needed. Mom's performance going viral on campus. She can't hurt you, I reminded her. The restraining order protects you, and your emancipation hearing is next week. After that, you'll be legally free from both of them. Linda took a deep breath. I know, it's just seeing her like that. She seemed so convincing. What if people believe her? They won't, I assured her, though I wasn't entirely confident myself. Mom had always been good at playing the victim. That night, videos of Mom's meltdown started circulating on campus social media. Most comments were supportive of us, calling Mom crazy and inappropriate, but a few questioned whether there might be truth to what she was saying, whether Linda really was confused or mentally ill. It made my blood boil. After everything we'd been through, some people still wanted to give our abusers the benefit of the doubt. The next day, I got an email from the dean of students, asking me to come to her office. My stomach dropped. Was I in trouble for the scene Mom had caused? But when I arrived, Dean Patterson was surprisingly sympathetic. I've been briefed on your situation, she said. I want you to know that the university supports you and your sister. We've instructed security to be on alert for your parents, and we can arrange for academic accommodations if you need them. I nearly cried from relief. Thank you. That means a lot. Of course, she said kindly. No student should have to deal with what you're going through. Is there anything else you need from us right now? I thought about it. Actually, yes. My roommate has been staying with her boyfriend, but she'll be back soon. Having a private space has been really important for Linda's recovery. Is there any way we could get a single room or something? Dean Patterson nodded. I think we can arrange that. Let me see what's available. By the end of the day, we had approval to move to a small single room in a quieter dorm. It wasn't much bigger than our current space, but it would be just ours. No roommate to explain things to or work around. The day of Linda's emancipation hearing finally arrived. We dressed in our nicest clothes, which weren't very nice at all. Linda wore a borrowed blouse from Allie, and I wore the only non-jeans pants I owned. Kevin met us at the courthouse looking confident. Everything's in order, he assured us. With the criminal charges against your father and the restraining order already in place, I don't foresee any issues. We were directed to a small courtroom where a judge would hear the case. My heart nearly stopped when I saw Mom sitting on one of the benches. Despite the restraining order, she was allowed to be there as Linda's legal guardian for this specific proceeding. She dressed like she was going to church, all modest and proper. Linda squeezed my hand so hard it hurt. She's going to try to stop it, she whispered. She can try, I whispered back, but she won't succeed. The hearing itself was surprisingly brief. The judge reviewed the paperwork, asked Linda a few questions about her plans for finishing high school and living arrangements. Aunt Sarah testified via video call, confirming she would provide housing and support. Then it was Mom's turn to speak. She stood up, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. Your Honor, my daughter is a troubled girl who has been manipulated by her sister, she began. These allegations against my husband are completely false. Linda has always had emotional problems. Mrs. Thompson, the judge interrupted. I have reviewed the police reports and the temporary restraining order. Your husband is currently in custody on serious charges related to child abuse. Are you suggesting the police and district attorney are also being manipulated? Mom faltered. No, but furthermore, the judge continued, I have statements from Linda's teachers noting behavioral changes consistent with trauma. I have medical records documenting injuries, and I have Linda's own testimony, which I find credible. Mom's face hardened. She's lying. They both are. The judge looked at her over his glasses. Mrs. Thompson, I suggest you consider your position carefully. Continuing to deny documented abuse could reflect poorly on you in any future proceedings. That shut her up. She sat down, glaring at us. After a few more questions, the judge made his decision. I find that emancipation is in Linda's best interest. Petition granted, effective immediately. Linda burst into tears beside me. Happy tears this time. She was free, legally free from our parents. As we left the courtroom, Mom tried to approach us. Linda, please. You're making a terrible mistake. Kevin stepped between us. Mrs. Thompson, your daughter has a restraining order against you. I suggest you keep your distance. Mom's face contorted with rage. This isn't over, she hissed, just like she had outside the dorm. You'll regret this, both of you. But her threats felt empty now. Linda was emancipated. Dad was in jail. Their power over us was broken. That night, we celebrated with pizza and ice cream in our new dorm room. Linda couldn't stop smiling. I still can't believe it, she kept saying. I'm actually free. You're free, I confirmed. And in 2 weeks, you'll be in Colorado with Aunt Sarah, starting your new life. Linda's smile faltered a little. I'm going to miss you. I'll miss you too, I admitted, but we'll talk all the time, and I'll come visit during breaks. Promise? She asked, suddenly looking like the little girl who used to sneak into my room when we were kids. Promise, I said firmly. The next 2 weeks flew by. Linda packed her few belongings and we made plans for her trip to Colorado. Aunt Sarah had already enrolled her in the local high school and set up her bedroom. Detective Ramirez kept us updated on the case against Dad. It was moving forward, with more charges being added as the investigation continued. Mom was now also under investigation for child endangerment and failure to report abuse. The day before Linda's flight, we got a letter. It had been forwarded from our old dorm to the new one. No return address, but the handwriting was unmistakably Mom's. Linda and I stared at it. Should we open it? She asked. I shrugged. Might as well. See what lies she's telling now. Inside was a single sheet of paper. No tearful pleas this time, no manipulation, just a short, cold message. You've destroyed this family. Your father is broken. I've lost everything because of your lies. I hope you're satisfied with what you've done. Don't ever contact us again. Linda read it twice, then handed it back to me. She still doesn't get it, does she? They destroyed the family, not us. I nodded, crumpling up the letter and tossing it in the trash. Some people never take responsibility for their actions, but it doesn't matter anymore. We're free of them. The next day, I drove Linda to the airport. We hugged for a long time at the security checkpoint. Thank you, she whispered, for believing me, for helping me, for everything. I hugged her tighter. That's what sisters do. We protect each other. As I watched her walk through security, I felt a strange mix of sadness and hope. Sadness that we'd lost so many years to fear and abuse. Hope that we could both build better lives now. On the drive back to campus, I thought about everything we'd been through. The years of abuse, the fear, the pain, but also the strength we'd found. The people who'd helped us along the way. The justice that was finally being served. Our parents had tried to break us, but they'd failed. Linda and I had survived. More than that, we'd fought back. We'd exposed their crimes and escaped their control. I pulled into the campus parking lot, feeling lighter than I had in years. The future stretched out before me, full of possibilities. Classes to take, friends to make, a life to build, and a sister who, despite everything, I'd managed to save, just like she once saved me. The cold autumn air hit my face as I stepped out of the car, and I took a deep breath, savoring the feeling of freedom. For the first time in my life, I wasn't afraid. I wasn't hiding. I wasn't pretending to be someone I wasn't just to avoid punishment. I could simply be Maria, autism and all. As I walked back to my dorm, I noticed little things I'd been too stressed to appreciate before. The vibrant red and orange leaves crunching beneath my feet, the sound of students laughing in the distance, the smell of coffee from the campus cafe. Simple pleasures that had been overshadowed by fear for so long. My phone buzzed with a text from Linda. Made it through security. Boarding soon. Already miss you. I smiled and texted back. Miss you too. Call me when you land. That night, I sat alone in our dorm room, my dorm room now, and felt a strange mix of emotions. Relief that Linda was safe and on her way to a better life. Pride that we'd stood up to our parents and won. Sadness for all the years we'd lost. But mostly, I felt hope. Hope for Linda's future in Colorado. Hope for my own future here at college. Hope that the worst was finally behind us. I opened my laptop and started working on an essay for my psychology class. The topic was resilience, how people overcome trauma and adversity. I had to smile at the irony. If there was one thing Linda and I knew about, it was resilience. As I typed, I realized something important. Our story wasn't just about surviving abuse. It was about finding our voices, about learning that we deserved better, about discovering that there were good people in the world who would help us if we were brave enough to ask. It was about two sisters who, despite everything, never stopped loving each other, even when it seemed like we had.